Alexander the Great's military campaigns were not just a series of battles. They were a systematic process of conquest and expansion driven by strategic genius, logistical brilliance, and an unparalleled understanding of combined arms warfare. To understand every part of the war of Alexander, we must analyze the phases of his campaigns, his military machine, his tactics, and the logistical challenges he overcame. Phase 1. Consolidation and Preparation, 336 to 334 BCE. The first phase of Alexander's reign was dedicated to securing his power base and preparing for the invasion of Persia. Having inherited the throne of Macedon following the assassination of his father, Philip II, Alexander had to immediately assert control over the Greek city-states and the rebellious Balkan tribes. The Greek uprising and the destruction of Thebes. Upon Philip's death, many Greek city-states, particularly Thebes and Athens, saw an opportunity to regain independence. Alexander moved swiftly and decisively. The brutal sack of Thebes in 335 BCE served as a stark warning to the rest of Greece, effectively ending any organized resistance. This rapid response demonstrated Alexander's ruthlessness and strategic speed, ensuring a secure rear flank before he embarked on his grand expedition. The Macedonian military machine. The core of Alexander's success lay in the military reforms instituted by Philip II. Alexander inherited arguably the most effective fighting force of the ancient world. The Macedonian phalanx, this heavy infantry unit, armed with the sarissa, a pike up to 18 feet long, formed the anvil in Alexander's tactics. The phalanx was a disciplined and nearly impenetrable wall of spears designed to hold the enemy in place. The companion cavalry, heteroi led by Alexander himself. This heavy cavalry was the hammer. They were the elite striking force, trained to execute decisive charges and break enemy lines. Combined arms warfare. Alexander perfected the coordination between the phalanx, cavalry, and other units, light infantry, archers, and siege engines. This integrated approach allowed him to adapt to diverse battlefields and exploit enemy weaknesses. Phase 2. The invasion of the Persian Empire, 334 to 331 BCE. Alexander's invasion of the vast, Achaemenid Persian Empire was the defining period of his military career. His objective was not just to defeat Darius III, but to dismantle the empire itself. The crossing and the Battle of the Granicus, 334 BCE. Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor with approximately 40,000 troops. His first major confrontation with Persian forces occurred at the Granicus River. The Persians, commanded by local satraps, held the high ground. Alexander, demonstrating characteristic boldness, launched a risky cavalry charge across the river, shattering the Persian lines and securing his foothold in Asia. The Battle of Issus, 333 BCE. This was the first time Alexander faced Darius III in person. The battle took place on a narrow coastal plain, which minimized the advantage of the much larger Persian army. Alexander used the terrain to his advantage, launching a hammer and anvil attack. While his phalanx held the Persian center, Alexander led his companion cavalry directly toward Darius. Darius, fearing capture, fled the battlefield, causing his army to rout. This victory gave Alexander control over Syria and significant psychological momentum. Siege warfare and securing the Mediterranean, 332 BCE. Alexander understood the importance of cutting off the Persian navy. He engaged in a series of sophisticated sieges to capture coastal cities. The siege of Tyre was particularly notable. Tyre, an island city, was considered impregnable. Alexander ordered the construction of a massive causeway to the city, a feat of military engineering that allowed his forces to breach the walls. The successful capture of Tyre, followed by Gaza, secured his control over the eastern Mediterranean and facilitated his entry into Egypt. Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BCE, the climax of the Persian campaign. Darius III had amassed a massive army on the plains of Gaugamela. Despite being significantly outnumbered, Alexander utilized his superior tactics. He lured Darius's forces into a complex maneuver, creating a gap in the Persian line. Alexander then launched a powerful cavalry charge into that gap, targeting Darius's position. Once again, Darius fled, leading to the collapse of his army and effectively ending the Achaemenid Empire. Alexander was now king of Asia. Phase 3. The Eastern Campaigns and the March into India, 330 to 326 BCE. Following the defeat of Darius, Alexander pursued the remaining Persian leadership and expanded his empire into Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Logistics and supply. As Alexander pushed deeper into hostile and less hospitable territories, logistics became paramount. His army was remarkably mobile, relying on disciplined soldiers carrying their own equipment and minimizing baggage trains. Alexander's genius lay in his ability to secure supplies before entering new regions, often through strategic alliances or swift conquests. Sieges in Central Asia. Alexander faced strong resistance in Bactria and Sogdiana, where he engaged in brutal, protracted campaigns to subdue rebellions and capture formidable mountain strongholds like the Sogdian Rock. The Battle of the Hydaspes, 326 BCE. Alexander's forces entered India and faced King Porus, whose army included war elephants. Alexander's tactics evolved to counter the threat of the elephants, using feigned movements to cross the Hydaspes River and flanking maneuvers to defeat Porus. This was his final major battle. Alexander's military tactics and strategic genius. Alexander's success was rooted in his ability to combine strategic vision with innovative battlefield tactics. The hammer and anvil. This was his signature tactic. The phalanx, anvil, would fix the enemy in place, while the companion cavalry, hammer, would deliver a crushing blow to the flank or rear. Speed and mobility. Alexander's army was incredibly fast. He often moved rapidly across vast distances, catching opponents by surprise and preventing them from mobilizing their full forces. Psychological warfare. Alexander utilized his reputation and the fear he instilled in his enemies. The brutal example of Thebes, the speed of his campaigns, and his personal bravery on the battlefield were all forms of psychological warfare aimed at demoralizing opponents before or during combat. Adaptability. Alexander was not rigid in his approach. He adapted his tactics to the terrain, the enemy's composition, e.g., facing war elephants in India, and the specific circumstances of each conflict. The administration and impact of the wars. Alexander's wars were not just about destruction. They were also a process of establishing a new order. Hellenization. As Alexander conquered new territories, he established Greek cities, many named Alexandria. These cities served as military garrisons, but also as centers for Greek culture, language, and trade. This process of Hellenization significantly influenced the conquered regions. Administrative integration. Alexander maintained many of the existing Persian administrative structures, satrapies, but placed Macedonians or Greeks in key military and financial roles. He also encouraged a policy of integration, famously promoting marriages between Macedonians and Persians, though this was often controversial among his own men. Alexander's wars were a relentless, multifaceted operation involving brilliant tactical execution, meticulous logistics, psychological warfare, and a clear vision for expansion. His campaigns transformed the ancient world, creating a vast Hellenistic empire that facilitated the exchange of ideas, culture, and commerce between East and West.